Did you know that applying soap directly from the bottle to the sponge is not the most economic way to use it? We can mix it with water so that we don't end up using more soap than necessary. We'll start by pouring soap into a convenient bottle fitted with a dispenser, filling it halfway. Fill the second half with clean water. If you don't have a funnel and need help pouring water into the bottle, you can just use an ordinary teaspoon. Pour the water directly onto the teaspoon so that the water travels down the teaspoon and into the bottle. If done correctly, not a drop will spill. Now you just need to mix it up. You can do it with the same teaspoon, or you can tighten up the cap and shake the bottle. The soap is now ready for use, convenient and economical. It's best to wash dishes that have been used to make dough, especially if there were eggs in the batter, with very cold water. If you try to wash these dishes with hot water, the dough will stick in the dishes even more. The dough will even begin to stick to the sponge, making it even harder to remove. It's much easier to clean these types of dishes with cold water. Both the dough is cleaned off quickly and easily from both the dishes and the sponge itself. If necessary, we can always use a few drops of soap like our diluted soap that we made earlier. Perhaps you have a similar egg holder in your refrigerator. Here is another interesting use for it. Lightly sprinkle the entire surface with flour. Roll out a thin layer of dough into the shape of a rectangle. We'll be using the exact same dough to make dumplings. I'll show you how I cook dumplings near the end of the video. Lightly press the dough into each hole and add the filling of your choice. Today we'll be using cottage cheese as a filling. Add egg yolk to the cottage cheese and mix it with a fork. We'll also add a pinch of salt. These will be savory dumplings. Add the filling into the dumplings using 2 teaspoons. We'll use another rectangle of dough to seal up the dumplings. Lightly press the dough down with your hand and then gently roll it with a rolling pin. Carefully peel off the excess dough. Flip the egg holder over and carefully lift it so that the dumplings come out. It's looking great so far. The only thing left is to separate the dumplings. The result is square, identical, very beautiful dumplings. You can follow the same steps to make ravioli as well. Whenever we use the oven to cook, we can save time and energy whenever by cooking multiple dishes together. For example, here we are baking potatoes for a salad together with a layered cake, which was shown recently. Here are some ways to clean and prepare calamari. First, look inside. There often will be an internal shell that needs to be removed. Turn the hood inside out and peel off the inner film that surrounds the surface on both sides. This will make our calamari much more tender and tasty. Here is a common way to cook calamari. Start boiling water. Then add a bay leaf and some whole black peppercorns to taste. Drop in the calamari and cook for 1-3 minutes depending on your preference and the size of the calamari. Our calamari is now soft and tender. Here's another option. This time we'll add salt, bay leaves, whole black peppercorns, and dill to boiling water. Called calamari cool-off water. Next, we'll add the calamari and let the water come to a boil. As soon as the water starts to boil, remove the pot from the heat and let it cool to room temperature. Just give it a try. You'll be very pleased with the result. Our calamari is now perfectly tender, flavorful, aromatic, because it's had time to absorb all of these flavors. And here is another way of preparing calamari, which I think will surprise a lot of people. As usual, we start by bringing water to a boil, then add in salt, black peppercorn, bay leaves. Add in the calamari and cook on a soft boil for exactly 30 minutes. Yes, you heard right, 30 minutes! Calamari has a very interesting characteristic. After about 25 minutes of cooking, the calamari that has become firm and rubbery from overcooking suddenly becomes soft and tender with a delicate flavor. Let's compare our calamari. This calamari in the middle was cooked for exactly 2 minutes. It came out just as it should, soft, tender, and succulent. And this calamari on the right was cooked for 30 minutes, and it's become softer and more tender. And last is my favorite, where we brought the calamari to a boil and then let cool to room temperature. Calamari cooked in this way turns out to have an amazing texture, tender, soft, moderately springy, and at the same time very succulent and fragrant. Now, using our prepared calamari, I'll show you our family's favorite salad. We especially love it during the holidays. In a salad bowl, combine calamari and boiled eggs, both cut into small cubes. I like to cut the eggs like so, cutting them to approximately the same size. Gently mix. Next, we'll add a bit of ground black pepper and salt if necessary. We'll also add caviar and homemade mayonnaise. I made this homemade mayonnaise just today. From here, we'll very gently mix the salad so that we don't ruin the caviar. Set it in the fridge for the flavors to mingle for at least an hour. Using a ramekin might be too big for the salad, so instead we'll use an espresso cup. Fill it with salad. Smooth the top of the salad gently. Do not press down hard. Place salad greens onto a serving plate and carefully turn the espresso cup over. Garnish the salad with dill. Our salad turned out very aesthetically pleasing and, most importantly, incredibly delicious. Here we have sliced meat ready to be ground. We'll slightly freeze the meat to make it easier to grind, especially if the meat has any small veins. When the meat has become a bit frozen, we'll run it through the meat grinder. If we are using various types of meat or poultry, we can alternate the pieces of meat. We'll also be adding onions and garlic throughout the process. We'll also throw in a couple more pieces of onion at the very end of the grinding process. The last pieces of onion will push out all the remaining meat that left in the meat grinder. Today we'll be using this ground meat as a filling for dumplings. Add salt and ground black pepper to the ground meat and start mixing. This makes the ground meat softer and more tender, resulting in the finished dumplings being very delicious. We'll be making dough for dumplings using whole wheat flour. Our dough will surely turn out nice and supple. Starting with the flour, we'll add salt, eggs, and warm water. First, mix the eggs and water together in the center, then slowly begin to incorporate the flour from the sides. Next, we'll knead the dough thoroughly for 5-7 minutes. The kneading process will make our dough quite soft. Form the dough into a ball and cover with a lid or bag and let sit for at least 40 minutes. After resting for 40-50 minutes, our whole grain dough will become amazingly soft and supple, making it a pleasure to work with. Sprinkle whole grain flour onto the cutting board. Cut off a small piece and roll out the dough into a very thin layer. Cut the dough into squares, removing the uneven edges, forming them into a ball, and then rolling them out again. Here's what we can do to quickly fill the ground meat for dumplings and at the same time not to get our hands dirty. Here we'll be using a large, heavy, dirty Ziploc bag. Fill the bag with ground meat. Cut off the tip of the bag and squeeze the right amount of ground meat onto each square. Using a knife to help. This method is quick and easy. When finished, we'll fold the corners of each square into a triangle. Squeeze the edges of the dough together and then connect the two far corners of the triangle together to form a diamond shape. Here we have 200 dumplings, so we won't be able to eat them all in one sitting. Let's see how we can go about freezing these dumplings. We'll need a large tray of all sorts to lay out all the dumplings. Using a simple pizza box will do the trick. Cover the bottom with a sheet of parchment paper and arrange the dumplings in rows. Close the box and place it in the freezer. We'll usually leave it in there overnight. If you are in the mood to cook traditional round dumplings, but don't have a rolling pin at hand, we can roll out small pieces of dough into circles by using a large apple. We'll be using our whole grain flour from earlier to make these dumplings. Here we'll add salt to boiling water and then the dumplings. After the dumplings flow to the surface, cook for 7 minutes. However, if the dumplings are frozen, then increase the time. During cooking, we want to cook the dumplings with a roll and boil, but not just simmering. This quickly cooks the dough and keeps all the dumplings intact. Look how great they look. Despite the fact that the whole grain flour dough is dark in color, the dumplings still look very appetizing. Serve with sour cream. The dough is thin and tasty, and the inside is a delicious meat filling. Just perfect. To easily separate frozen dumplings from the plastic tray, Let them stand at room temperature for 10 minutes. Our dumplings that are in the pizza box on parchment paper are not stuck to anything. Once they are frozen, we can put them in tight Ziploc bags and store them in the freezer. Here is the remainder of our minced meat. We'll be making quick and easy meat patties. And best of all, we won't dirty our hands when forming the patties either. Take 2 spoons of the same size. Wet them in water and form small patties, as if forming dumplings from dough, shifting from spoon to spoon several times. Lay the patties out on a baking sheet and lightly flatten the tops. And now it's time for a little decoration. Place a fork on every other patty and sprinkle them with something either bright or fragrant. Today we're using ground paprika and dried cilantro. They're already looking beautiful and appetizing. Bake the patties in a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for about 25 minutes. And here I've decided to cook our frozen dumplings. You can see how the dough holds its shape perfectly and doesn't tear. And since our dumplings are not sweet, I prefer to serve them with something savory like pesto. When making toast for the whole family, never put them on a ceramic plate, because condensation can form and ruin the toast. Instead, we can use a wooden board and stack the slices of toast straight from the toaster, like so. Now our toast will remain perfectly crunchy.